Hey everybody, so we're on to our next chapter, and this one is a doozy. There's a lot that happens right away in the beginning of this. Esperanza's dreaming again. This time she's not dreaming of her birthday song from her father, but she's dreaming about being suffocated by a bear. And all of a sudden, Mama's waking her up, and their house is on fire. Like, can't start off with any more action than that, right? So Esperanza grabs the doll that she got for her birthday, and everyone runs to escape the burning building or the burning house. Um, when they get outside, nobody knows where Abuelita is, and Miguel decides to run inside and looks for her. He goes in, he finds her, he carries her out. Um, as Miguel comes out, he's actually on fire a little bit. Alfonso tackles him, knocks him down, tries to put out the fire, and he does. Abuelita ends up being fine, which is great. And everyone's asking where she was, and she was looking for her crocheting, so that blanket that we talked about in the beginning. So remember, I said that was an important part of this story, was that blanket. And here it is coming up another time, just showing us again how important this blanket is in this story. It's actually a symbol for a lot more than just a blanket. So hopefully we're picking up on that, and maybe we'll talk about that in another one of our chapter summaries. Um, so when you think about the blanket, I would always go back and think about the first time we were talking about the blanket, or the first time that we saw the blanket in the book, because that's really showing us how significant this blanket was. So that's where Abuelita was. She was trying to find that crocheting in her blanket that we were talking about before. Um, so they get outside the house, and Abuelita's there. She actually hurts her ankle a little bit. That's it. But besides that, she's fine. Then they watch the fire just kind of burn the rest of the house down. Um, so Mama and Abuelita and Esperanza end up sleeping in the servants' house or quarters area, their cabin that they have on the property. Um, they're pretty sure that their uncles they sent somebody to start this fire, and I definitely think that's the case. You may think differently, but just based on all the events and what we've learned about Esperanza's uncles, it kind of seems like all this stuff is what they're doing to kind of gain all this power. Um, so I, when Esperanza wakes up after they're sleeping in the servants' cabins, she goes to the house and takes a look at all of the burnt down stuff to see if there's anything left. And unfortunately, everything is gone. So everything is like ash or soot, and it's all been burned up. Then her uncles arrive, right, to kind of say, "Oh, we feel bad for you, and this is so unfortunate." But that's probably just they're probably lying that they really feel bad, because I'm sure this is something that they themselves were involved in. Um, Tia Louise asks Ramona or Mama to marry him again, and he tells her that if she marries him, that they'll build this really, really big house, bigger and better than the one that was there before, and they'll replant all the grapevines to have a bigger, better farm than what they had in the past. Um, Otherwise, if she says no, they're not going to build a house there. It's his land, remember, right? He owns the land. She owned the house. Now the house is gone. So if he says if she's not going to marry him, then she's going to have to live with the servants. And then he kind of is like, as long as nothing else bad happens, so he's kind of like hinting at, this is what you have to do. Otherwise, something else might happen. Um, and then he also kind of talks about if she doesn't marry him, that with the loss of all the grapes and everything, there'll be no jobs for the workers, and there's no reason for them to be there. So kind of like, hey, Mama, you don't marry me, then everybody that you've known, everybody who works for you and lives on the ranch with you, they're all going to be out of work. Mama ends up telling Tia Louise that she'll think about it. And Esperanza kind of gets really annoyed about this and screams at him that he hates him. And then Tia Louise is like, well, when we get married, this is not appropriate for a girl her age. So he's like, we're going to send her, once we're married, we'll send her away to a boarding school, and she'll kind of learn the etiquette that she's supposed to have as like a proper lady in this time period. So then the uncle leaves, and Mama is talking with Abuelita and Hortensia and Miguel and Alfonso and Esperanza all together. And she tells Alfonso that Mama is not planning on marrying Tio Luis. She's going to leave. And the reason she says this is because if she doesn't leave, she knows that they're probably going to burn the servants' quarters down, and that's going to affect other people besides just her and Esperanza and Abuelita. So it's going to affect those other people who work for Mama and prior Papa before he passed away or was killed. They could move to another part of Mexico, but if they did that, then Tia Luis still might be involved in their lives in some way because he is kind of like a strong figure in Mexico. He has a lot of power. He has a lot of influence. So Mama decides that her and Esperanza are going to leave with Hortensia, Alfonso, Miguel, and go to the United States. Alfonso's brother has already trying to get them work in the United States, in California, actually, doing farming work. Abuelita can't go right now with them because of her ankle. So her ankle needs to heal. She's actually going to be going with her sister. She's going to go stay with her sister, who are nuns in a convent. And Abuelita also says that the nuns in the convent can create the paperwork, like a passport, birth certificate, those things that they would need to go ahead and get into the United States. They may even need some kind of paperwork saying that they're coming into the United States to work, so that they're there legally and aren't going to be kicked right back into Mexico and not allowed to cross the United States border. So we kind of end this chapter in that way. The last thing that Alfonso says to Mama is that the work in California is field work, meaning like she's going to be picking crops, so different types of plants or fruits. She's going to probably be hauling things, like picking up crates and moving them around, a whole bunch of different like physical labor. And this is something that, is different because, Mama's been living on this huge, massive ranch, and she's had workers and somebody like Hortensia who's been helping her out within the house and again with all of the work. And then Abuelita kind of tells Esperanza about her journey coming from Spain to Mexico and how it wasn't easy, but it was really, really exciting. And then, Esperanza is kind of thinking about this big, beautiful home they'll eventually have in California, and Hortensia and Miguel are going to take care of them. And I'm assuming she's thinking about all these things because she's like, when Abuelita gets there, she'll have all of her money, and we'll use that money to, start over new. So she's kind of thinking about, this nice big home and kind of living a similar lifestyle to what she's living now. And then Esperanza, after Mama says that she can work, Esperanza says, I can work in the field too. And everybody kind of giggles and laughs and thinks it's funny that she's offering to work because, again, she's lived this like really sheltered life and people do things for her. She hasn't really, had to do much on her own. So the nuns then come to pick up Abuelita and take her to the convent where she'll heal up and eventually, hopefully, meet Esperanza and Mama in California. And then Abuelita, as this is happening, is giving the zigzag blanket to Esperanza to finish while they're apart from each other, right? So again, Esperanza is going to be going to California and Abuelita staying with her sister in the convent. And again, here's this blanket coming up another time. So we saw it in chapter 1. We saw it in this chapter. That's what Abuelita left or was looking for, during the house fire. And now here it comes up again, and she tells Esperanza to finish this blanket while they're away. And really, this is kind of like a symbol for life. And I want you to think about that. I don't want to tell you what that symbol for life is. If you go back and think about that and look at the first part in the first time we see the blanket, it might come to you. But think about the zigzag pattern and this blanket as kind of like a symbol for life. So the nuns then get the paperwork for Mama and Esperanza, and they donate these not dirty clothes. They say there's donated clothes that are given to Mama and Esperanza because, again, they lost everything in the fire. So there's some stuff, some clothing for them. Senor Rodriguez is actually the one who is involved or helps with this escape. So he comes with the figs um, to their house, um, uh, and he's going to be the one to help them get out. Um, Tia Louise comes back, and Mama tells him she'll marry him eventually. And again, just because she says this for the servants and the other people who work on the farm or on the ranch. But she tells him if that's going to happen, he has to rebuild the house, replant the vines, and do this because the servants need jobs or the workers need jobs. So Tia Louise is surprised and kind of happy. He's going to tell everybody that, they're engaged to be married. And we know that that's not going to happen. And then Esperanza wakes up in the middle of the night, and they leave with only what they can carry. So she has a valise, which was one of our vocabulary words. So that's kind of like almost like a suitcase. And she has just some clothes and her doll in there. And then they don't walk out. What they do is they sneak through the ranch, through the grapevines, or through part of the grapevines, to Senor Rodriguez's farm. And when they get to the edge of the property, Esperanza stops and she looks back, and she kind of like feels like she's leaving Papa there. And her mother kind of like consoles her or reassures her that, her father is with her or Papa is with her wherever they go. It's not just the ranch is the place where he is. He's always with them, kind of like he stays in their hearts and in their minds all the time. So again, a lot happens in this chapter. There's a lot of action right in the beginning. So I thought this is a really interesting chapter. I really want you to think about that zigzag pattern in the blanket because that is something, again, I'm going to tell you is not going away in this story. I told you kind of symbolizes life a little bit. So it'd be great if you could go back and look at that first part in chapter 1 and kind of think about what I'm saying and how it could symbolize life, or how it has a deeper meaning than just, oh, this blanket is, up and then down and then up and then down. All right, guys. So I hope you like the chapter. I hope you like the next one.